Okay, let's start risk management. What is risk management? According to Murphy's law, it states if anything can go wrong, it will. Untreated risk has killed way too many projects. While project management is overhead, the reason organization tolerate that overhead is because project bring risk. If there wasn't risk, we would not need project management. Projects deal with change, and dealing with change is risky because as many business don't handle change very well. So, what is the strategy to manage your changes? When your project starts in the executing phase of the project, when you will be working in the planning phase of the project, always remember that you will produce in the planning phase of the project scope baseline, special baseline, and cost baseline. And what is baseline? When you get the formal approval from the project sponsor, that becomes your baseline. So then you will fall in the executing phase of the project. In the executing phase of the project, you will have to manage changes because many stakeholders will contact you and will ask you to make changes in your project. So what will you do? You will receive the change request and you will find its impact on time, cost, quality, customer satisfaction, and risk. And then you will forward it to change control board, and whatever decision is taken, you will have to communicate with them accordingly. So this is how you manage changes. So projects deal with change, and whenever you manage changes or you deal with changes, it comes with risk. So project deal with change, and dealing with change is risky because as many business don't handle change very well. If you manage your changes perfectly or in a formal manner, you will reduce your risk in your projects. So there's a probability of some sort of event occurring that will have an impact on your project. There are two major categories for risk: positive and negative. Positive risks are often called opportunities. These are things that can happen that will enhance the outcome of your project. So, how to manage risk? Work on to identify your risk. Number one. Second, then you will have to evaluate the possibility of an occurrence. You first identify your risk, number of risk involved in your project, and then you will evaluate the possibility of an occurrences of the risk. Then you will decide the action. You have identified the risk, you have identified and evaluate the possibility how in your entire life of the project for how many time it will occur, and then you will decide the action and then you will control it accordingly. So project come with risk. As a project manager, your job is to understand risk and incorporate it in your project to obtain better result and reduce uncertainties. So how to integrate risk management? Use risk to prioritize day to day. Discuss with the sponsor. Make risk a regular topic at status meeting and create or update an overall risk plan. If project manager does not manage risk, will not be able to finish project well, on time, and within budget. You may be different in managing projects. Most project managers don't want anything to do with it and they are happy to tolerate other risks. So, how do you find out about your stakeholder risk tolerance or sponsors even? First, be prepared that your stakeholder, sponsor, and the people on your project team will each tolerate risk differently. So you will have to prepare strategy for your stakeholders. You will have to prepare a strategy for the sponsor and other people around you are involved in the project, because their understanding with the risk will be very different. So team members take risk differently. People have business motivations to protect scope, time, or money when these constraints are discussed. So you will have to manage it very appropriately and very perfectly. So culture of the organization is that whether they take risk seriously or not. So what the in risk when we talk about the risk management, the knowledge area of project management, the first process of risk management is plan risk management. If you remember, you have 10 knowledge areas and almost like scope, time, cost, except integration management, starting from scope, time, cost, quality, resources, communication, risk, procurement, they all have got management plan. So as far as risk management is concerned, we have also a management plan for risk management as well. So plan risk management is the first official process of risk management, and plan risk management is a critical process in any project. As you know, each project inherently has risk. Some are major while others are minor. Regardless of the risk, each one needs to be managed. And this plan identifies how the project team will manage those risks. The risk management process falls under the planning process group, and it outlines how to perform the risk management activities for a project. The key benefit of this process is that it describes how the project team will identify, evaluate, rank, and manage each risk. So let's discuss the inputs. First official document is needed, that is project charter to work on plan risk management, and then you need your stakeholder register along with the project management plan, because at this stage project management plan will contain the number of process you have identified out of 49 for your project and the tools and techniques. But right now we are specific to this risk management, so we will get what processes we will use for risk management and what their tools and techniques will be used for risk management activities. And enterprise environmental factor and organizational process assets are the common inputs. As far as tools and techniques are concerned, data analysis, expert judgment, and meetings are the tools and techniques to work on plan risk management. And output is the risk management plan is a component of project management plan that describes how risk management activities will be structured and performed. Risk management plan may include some of or all of the following elements. So a project manager's work is to prevent problems and should not focus on dealing with them. Project managers often just focus on threats, what can go wrong, and negatively impact the project. Do not forget that there can also be positive impacts, good risks called opportunities. So risks are considered uncertainties in a project. You may or may not know what will happen if a risk occurs, but it's important to identify risk as early as possible so the team can decide how to handle them and request risk reserves in case they happen. So element of the risk management are risk strategy, describes the general approach to managing risk on the project. Methodologies define the specific approach, tools, and data sources that will be used to perform risk management on the project. And roles and responsibilities define the lead, support, and risk management team members for each type of activity described in the risk management plan and clarifies their responsibility, whereas funding identifies the funds needed to perform activities related to project risk management, establishes protocols for the application of the contingency and management reserves. Timing when defines when and how often the project risk management processes will be performed throughout the project lifecycle and establish risk management activities for inclusion into the project schedule. Risk categories provide a mean for grouping individual project risk. A common way to structure risk categories is with a risk breakdown structure. Like in this example, all sources of project risk is the first category. Like if you recall your memory, like the way we construct work breakdown structure, we have top hierarchy, then we have second hierarchy, and then we have third hierarchy and fourth. So this is how we prepare resource breakdown structure document. RBS level 0, then we have technical risk, then we have management risk, then we have commercial risk, we have external risk. And under technical risk, we identify scope definition, requirement definition, estimate assumption and constraint, technical processes, technology, and technical interface interfaces. And then we further identify their related risk. So this is how we prepare resource breakdown structure. And we also work on scale and impact probability and impact matrix, where we construct or develop design two tables: scale for probability and scale for the impact. Whereas the rating from 1 to 2 we interpret is low, from rating 3 to 4 we interpreted medium, for rating 5 to 6 we interpreted medium and high, and 7 and 8 high, and 7 and 10 fact that it will occur. As far as the scale for impact is concerned, it goes from rating 1 to 10, and then here it is its interpretation like no real impact, small reduction of time or cost reserves, medium reduction of time or cost reserves, large reduction of time or cost reserves, slightly over budget by 10% to 20%, by 20% to 30%, by 30 to 40, 40 to 100, and project failure. And then finally, we develop probability and impact matrix. For instance, if your activity is getting 4 for probability of occurrence, and impact is, for instance, 3. So 4 here it will come, 4 into 3. So it will get the number. It starts from 1 to 100. So this is how we design this probability and impact matrix for the project. Then next process is to identify risk. This is the next process of in project risk management. When you get a question about who should be involved in risk identification, the best answer is everyone. Each stakeholder has a different perspective of project and can provide thoughts on opportunities and threats. So you will have to involve everyone, everyone when you will be working on risk management. First document was plan risk management. Plan risk management document is basically a policy document, how you are going to address risk management in your project. But identify risk, you will have to involve each and every person, single person involved in your project. So risk deals with uncertainties in any project. Effect may be known and unknown. So this is a long list to work on identify risk. It is assumed that when you are going to identify your risk, you have worked on requirement documentation, requirement management plan, schedule management plan, cost management plan, quality management plan, resource management plan, risk management plan, scope baseline, schedule baseline, and cost baseline. So you identify your risk when you have gathered requirements from the stakeholders completely, when you have developed a traceability matrix, When you basically produce scope statement, WPS dictionary, altogether it becomes a scope baseline. When you finalize your work on schedule, that becomes your schedule baseline. When you finalize your work on cost, that becomes your cost baseline. And always remember, it is iterative. At this stage, if you are going to identify your risk for your project activities, obviously that risk management will cost you. So you will have to revise few document accordingly. Then from project documents, assumption log is needed, cost estimates are needed, duration estimates are needed, issue log, lesson learned register, requirement documentation, resource requirements, and stakeholder register. So what I'm trying to say is, whatever you have done in your project planning, all documents are needed to work on identify risk process at this stage, and enterprise environmental factor and organizational process assets are the common inputs. As far as expert judgment, tools and techniques are concerned, remember expert judgment and meetings. These two tools and techniques are almost given uh, in all processes of project management, mostly. So, expert judgment is to get expert opinion, or you can use your documentation of your previous similar projects, or you get expert opinion from third party. And obviously you will have to arrange meetings with the sponsor, you will have to arrange your meetings with the customers, stakeholders, and within your project team. So meeting is very handy tool. A project manager should have understanding of organizing and calling a meeting appropriately. And then obviously you will have to conduct follow-up meeting as well. Along with it, data gathering is another tool and technique where you will call a meeting, and in a meeting you will have a look on number of activities you are going to perform. And obviously in those activities the cost is given, time is given, and scope of the specification is also given. So you will gather that data for each and every single activity, and then you will discuss it in data analysis phase, where through root cause analysis, through assumption and constraint analysis, SWOT analysis, and document analysis. And obviously interpersonal and team skills are needed to provide enough facilitation for participants of the meeting, that if you are going to work on to identify your project risk, obviously you will have to provide them enough documentation so that they understand what activities we are going to discuss today to identify or to identify their risk. So output is risk register, risk report, and you will update project document updates. So identify risk considers both individual project risk and sources of overall project risk. Participants in risk identification activities may include the following: the project manager, number one, number two, project team members, then project risk specialist if you have assigned anyone for this specific work, then customers, subject matter experts from outside the project team, end user, other project managers, operation managers, stakeholders, and risk management experts within the organization. As you remember what I said earlier, that if we are going to discuss about risk management, you will have to involve everyone. The answer is everyone. You will have to involve everyone in the project, in this phase of the project. So you will have to involve the project manager, project team members, project risk specialist, customers, subject matter expert from outside the project team, end users, other project managers, operation managers, stakeholders, and risk management experts within the organization. While these personals are often key participants for risk identification, all project stakeholders should be encouraged to identify individual project risk. All project stakeholders, you must encourage your stakeholder to discuss openly about individual project risk you must listen to them. So it is the particularly important to involve the project team so they can develop and maintain a sense of ownership and responsibility for identified individual project risk, the level of overall project risk and associated risk response actions. So I hope it's clear now that to identify your risk, you will have to involve everyone, including your project team members as well. So why we involve your team members? Because in this way they will sense of ownership and responsibility for identified individual project risk. So plan documents are requirements, schedule, cost, quality, resources, risk, everything. From baseline, you need scope baseline. What is scope baseline? Scope baseline contains three documents. Number one is project scope statement, then work breakdown structure and work breakdown structure dictionary. This becomes a scope baseline. So what is baseline? When you get formal approval from the project sponsor, that becomes your baseline. Then schedule baseline. Schedule baseline, when you get formal approval of your developed schedule output, uh, we produce a network diagram and we produce calendar based schedule. And cost baseline, obviously complete activity wise budget. And you need cost estimates, duration estimates, issue log, lesson learned register, requirement documentation, resource requirements, stakeholder register, and any assumption log, along with the procurement document and third party procurement document as well, because agreements with the third party is also a risk, and you will have to manage third party stakeholders and organization effectively and efficiently. And enterprise environmental factors and organization process assets are the common inputs in all process of project management. Tools and techniques are data gathering. Data gathering, may we have brainstorming where we discuss about a single item. Uh, we conduct interviews, we conduct checklist, and we have root cause analysis, assumption analysis, constraint analysis, and we have strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat SWOT analysis. So let's discuss it with basic layout of a root cause that you have been facing, for instance, poor gas mileage issue. So what are the issues? That your car is not going up to the mark and it is consuming too much fuel, for instance. So we may have an issue with the machinery, we may have an issue with the material, the driving driver, perhaps, or method he has been using for driving a car. फिर उसके बाद हम फर्दर जाते हैं. तो उसके बाद भी there could be wrong gear issue, there could be poor maintenance of the car, there could be a problem related to poor driving habits. Perhaps he is using, sorry, driving a car in first and second or third gear, for instance. Then we have material, poor quality gas, improper lubrication, for instance, machinery, underinflated tires, and things like that. Then we further go on and we identify if he is using wrong gear, the driver is using wrong gears, what could be the reason? Reason could be poor hearing, music too loud, for instance, impatient hai banda, drive too fast, always late, impatient. So this is how we can perform and conduct root cause analysis in our um, for different activities to identify the issue file for the risk. Then we have prompt list, we have facilitations, we have documentation reviews, and ultimately we produce risk register. The risk register captures detail of identified individual project risk, the results of performed qualitative risk analysis, plan risk responses, implement risk response, and monitor risk are recorded. in the risk register as those processes are conducted throughout the project. The risk register may contain limited or extensive risk information depending on project variables such as size and complexity. It contains list of identified risk, potential risk owners, list of potential risk response. And then in output we have risk reports. A risk report is generated and disseminated to the stakeholders to keep them apprised of risk management efforts and outcomes. After the identify risk process, contents of risk register would include an overview of information about the threat and opportunities that have been identified. So in this lecture we have covered two processes: plan risk management and identify risk. In next video, we will discuss in detail the qualitative risk analysis and quantitative risk analysis.